Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm using a Greenlee PVC bender. It is like an oven. It gets really warm, and I don't know the exact temperature it gets to, but it gets hot enough to heat up that plastic PVC conduit you see there. So I'm able to make twists and bends with it. You really can get the bend that you want by heating up the PVC, as you can see here. So I use it to make 90s and 45s and tiny offsets. And if I need to buy the prefab parts, I buy them, but I like to use this heater whenever I can because it just makes the job easier and neater, to be honest with you. It's a really, really nice tool to have. So inside the house here, this is basically a pull box. So anytime you have a run of conduit, you can have up to 360 degrees of bends in one run. But after that, you have to put in a box such as this so that you can follow the National Electric Code for one. And of course, anything more than 360 degrees it turns anyway, it's going to be hard to pull that wire through the pipe. So I put this conduit box in here, and on the back side of this conduit box, you'll see this hole and the pipe coming through from the outside that goes out to the generator. So attaching this conduit to the wall using the Tapcon screws and 1.25" PVC. And so what we'll do is we'll actually splice inside this box, and we'll run wires from here out to the generator and from this box out to the transfer switch. So here I'm using a prefab 90-degree fitting for this PVC conduit here. And you'll see my right hand twisting that conduit around so that most of the surface on the fitting receives the glue, and you get a real good contact there to glue that piece on. I think that's very important. And if you were to take the time to read the label on the conduit and then the glue, you would see that that's necessary. So this is my PVC shear. It's such a nice tool. It just cuts that pipe like so easy. I used to love that, the Sawzall to cut the conduit. But now with that PVC shear, I use that thing all the time. Totally love it. It's good for up to a 2-inch conduit. Fantastic. Hey, look at my new pack out drawers. This is the 3-drawer setup. I have 3 of those now, and I have 3 of the 2-drawer setup. And at this point, this was like maybe a month ago, I did this video. I just gotten a couple of them, and I've actually gotten more since then. So I'm a big fan. So out here at the transfer switch, I'm measuring the conduit between where it meets the fitting on the inside of the basement and on the outside here where it's going to go into this LB, and then from the LB PVC fitting, it's going to go into the transfer switch. So here again, I'm using the I like to use a nice clear caulk, and this is like a premium grade caulk that I'm using here in the Milwaukee caulk gun, which is really nice to use. Now this caulk costs anywhere between $8 and $10, so it's a little bit more expensive, but it dries clear and it's perfect. I love it. The module you're looking at there is what makes this transfer switch a smart switch. Those AC terminations right there lock out the air conditioner if the generator does not have enough power to start the air conditioning condensing unit. And there's your transfer switch connections as well. So you see here I'm getting ready to pull my signal wires from the transfer switch out to the generator. And as long as they have the same insulation rating as your main feeders going out to the generator, then they could be in the same conduit. I don't want to go into too much detail about how the transfer occurs, but just know that those signal wires is what makes it happen. Electricity is very dangerous, and I wouldn't want to encourage anybody to do this on their own, but rather familiarize themselves with what they're doing, what they're paying for to have done. So definitely would leave this up to a licensed electrician for sure. This is definitely not a DIY type project. This here is a 22 kilowatt standby generator from Generac. And very quickly here, I got to take off this cover, install the generator, terminate the feeder conductors and the signal wires. And this is a late model 2020 generator. And these are different than they've been in years past. I haven't done a generator in a couple years, I want to say. So the model, they've changed a lot on these, and so you have to take off this whole side cover of the generator, the frame, just to get to the access panels. But I will say this, it was a lot easier to connect the battery and to connect the wiring with this new design. I would definitely say Generac definitely upgraded and made the experience of wiring up a generator much easier for the installer. So let's talk about this trench that we have here. It hasn't been backfilled yet, but as you can see, the gas piping is on top of the electrical wiring. And here in New Jersey, the gas piping only needs to be down 12 inches, whereas the generator wiring and conduit underground like this needs to be at 18 inches below the surface. So what that means is the top of that conduit in the trench has to be 18 inches below the top of the trench. And so here I am. I work by myself. I don't know if you noticed, but I work by myself, so I gotta figure out how to run these wires, and it's a real pain in the ass working by yourself doing this. But I've been doing it for so long that I don't even think about it anymore. But there are a lot of headaches in pulling wires like this by yourself. It takes a lot longer than if you had somebody else there to help you pull the wire, for sure. So here I'm doing a dry fit of the flexible non-metallic PVC here, and some people might call it Carlon. Anyhow, we use this flexible conduit to account for any vibrations of the generator. So as that motor's going, there's going to be some vibrations. The flexible conduit kind of accounts for that, and the gas piping as well. You can see the flexible fitting that goes to the back of the generator also to account for the vibrations. So it's pretty important to not have a rigid conduit going directly to the generator. So inside that conduit going out to the generator, I have the 6 wires for signaling. I have the T1 for the battery, N1 and N2 for the voltage sensing. I have 23 for the transfer. I have 194, that's for the 12 volts. And then of course the black is the ground. Also in here, I have my power feeder. So contained in this 22 kilowatt generator is a 100 amp main breaker disconnect for the generator. It's inside the compartment. And so what you're looking at for your power feeds are 2 number 3 THWN conductors, a number 4 neutral conductor, and of course a number 6 equipment grounding conductor. All of those, so 6, so there's 10 conductors in an 1.25 inch conduit going to the generator to make this all work. Using these T-handle Allen wrenches definitely makes things easy. These are like $60 or $70 by Klein. I have 2 sets of them, and I tell you what, without them, you'd be there for a lot longer using the fold-up keys. So I'm really glad that I bought these T-handle Allen wrenches to tighten down these lugs. Okay, so here is something I know not every contractor does. But I worked for a guy before I got my license many, many years ago, about 15 years ago, and we would always identify the conductors inside this LB fitting here. I know most inspectors are not going to take that cover off and look at it, but the man I worked for stressed that we do this. And if you look in the code book, it is there. You want to be able to identify the conductors anywhere where you can splice. And of course, an LB is not the ideal place to splice, but if they have a cubic volume patent on there, then you're able to splice inside that LB. Those conductors better be identified. So that's why I could continue to do it to this day, because I think it's important. And it's a part of the code. Okay, so this is a 26R battery. It's shipped with the generator directly from Generac. It has a minimum of 526 cranking amps. I think that's what it is. Or it might be 525 cranking amps. Anyhow, that's what Generac specs for their installations and their generators. And so I just buy straight from them and have it shipped with the generator whenever I order one. And so here I am just installing it. I can tell you one thing. You got to check your battery if you're going to do any maintenance yourself. If the battery's dead, this generator will not start. Very similar to a car. So make sure your battery is in good working condition. If a storm is approaching, just go out there and check it. And I can't stress enough to do at least yearly, maybe twice a year of annual maintenance on the generator, just to make sure everything's working just right. So worth it to have that peace of mind that the thing's going to start when you need it the most. Now this is the trim kit that comes with the generator. So this is usually like the last thing we do. And the only reason why we do it last is because it just gets in the way. If you got to move parts while you're wiring it, if you got to move it around, take off that side thing to wire the generator. So last thing we do is put this this trim kit on, and once it's on, it just snaps together. It's pretty simple. But I see a lot of generators that don't have it, so I don't know why people don't put them on. But wait till you see this thing after this trim kit's on. It looks beautiful. I think it's fantastic. And it covers up those holes you use to transport the generator on site. Now here, I just didn't have the camera rolling, but the plumber and his helper actually helped me get this generator in place. I have a cart from Generac to move the generator. It's over 500 pounds. So you might not be able to do this yourself depending on where you need to put it in your yard. This was up in the back of somebody's house through a pool, up 6 stairs, through this landscape. So I definitely needed help moving it. So definitely account for that if you want to do this yourself. But like I said, I don't think it's a good idea you do it yourself. I think you should call a licensed plumber and a Generac certified installer. And there it is. Looks beautiful, doesn't it? Very proud of this install. Now this is kind of a pain in the ass with all these conductors here, but I got to put them all together inside this box. Because I work by myself, this is really the only time-consuming way to get it done. Otherwise, keeping all those conductors together and pulling it through, a major pain in the ass. So they are broken here, and they're spliced here, and everything works fine. Conductor identification is so important. I make sure I put on too much tape. Some guys like to do like a candy cane style wrapping of the tape. I like to make it solid so there's no doubt that wire is either a neutral or a ground, you know for sure on any one of my projects.
First transfer switch test by turning off this main breaker on the transfer switch. Doing that, this generator should turn right on in about 6 seconds. There it goes. Generator has started. Now we're waiting for the load to transfer. The load has transferred.